Chair of the National Governors Association, and he's author of the book Still Standing that will be out this month. Welcome, Governor. If I could have you first talk about the violence that we're seeing in many cities across the country, and the president saying that these states and the cities, if they want federal help, he's willing to help, but if they're not going to take his help, maybe he would impose it, and looking to a news conference next week. What do you see there as the federal role, and explain maybe the reluctance from some of these states and cities that don't want federal help?
Well, yeah, I don't know what the president's proposed announcement is next week about the federal help. But look, I can tell you that I talk about this in my book. We were one of the first states to experience this kind of violence and destruction in our city in 2015. Right after I became governor, we had the outbreaks of the worst violence in 47 years in the city of Baltimore. I ended up calling up 4,000 members of the National Guard and 1,000 police officers. I believe we needed to send in an overwhelming amount of force in order to keep the peace and the law and order, keep the citizens of the city safe. And after some initial destruction and violence and police being attacked, once we sent in all those folks, we were able to keep everybody safe. We allowed peaceful protests for a solid week, but no more violence or destruction, or nobody else got hurt for the rest of the week. And I think that's kind of a mistake that's happening in some of these cities and states where their police are standing down. They're being overwhelmed by crowds, and some of these mayors in some of these large cities are, I think, doing just the exact opposite of what they need to do. But I'm not sure bringing in federal troops is the way to go. But National Guard, certainly governors across America have utilized them, are utilizing them during the pandemic. And in some of these cities, we need the state police to back up the cities, and we need the National Guard in some cases. We've got to restore law and order. You can't have lawlessness and gangs taking over the streets.
No, you cannot. You mentioned the pandemic. Let's talk a little bit about that in the state of Maryland. Where do you see things? And tell me a little bit about Prince George's County. That's the largest school district, I believe. I could have that wrong, but deciding to only do online instruction at the start of the school year.
Well, first of all, in the pandemic, we're looking at the rising cases all across America. Luckily, in Maryland, we're still trending in a pretty good direction. Our positivity rate is down again today. It's been down consistently for the past 90 days since we hit our peak quite a while ago, and we're pleased with that. But we're still alarmed at some of the disturbing trends in some of our states around the region and around the country. We're going to be meeting with our state superintendent, our state board of education, that'll make the final decisions about what to do. They are working in conjunction with all of the local county school boards, and they're going to take into consideration the CDC guidelines. And I think everybody wants to make sure that we get our kids learning again, and would like to get them back in school as quickly as possible. But we're going to listen also to the public health officials and make sure that we go about it in the safest way possible as well, to keep our kids and our teachers safe.
And of course, people need their kids to go back to school so that they can also go to work, because the economy is a big part of all of this. And you've announced that you have a press conference today at 4 o'clock, just in a couple of hours, and it will be about unemployment insurance. Is there anything that you can tell us about that? That's going to be a big issue in the next couple of weeks as Congress tries to hammer out another stimulus bill.
Well, Dana, sure. Obviously, unemployment is one of the biggest problems we're facing across America. In our state, it's we tripled from around 3-something% to 9-something%, which is horrific. It's the worst we've had in quite some time. But we're doing about 2.5 times better than many other states and better than the rest of the country. But it still means we have almost 500,000 Marylanders in our small state that are unemployed. We're working hard to try to get them benefits and make it through this crisis. But it's the worst economic catastrophe that we've had to deal with. As the chairman of the National Governors Association, we've been working with leaders in Congress and with the administration to make sure we can try to continue to get some more help in that next stimulus package. When Congress comes back after the recess, we're going to keep fighting hard to see if we can't make sure we can continue to get people the help, and we can stop some of the hemorrhaging that we're having in our economy.
Will you advocate for keeping that additional supplemental funding?
We absolutely. I mean, we're pushing for more funding. We want to continue to support our small businesses. We want to continue to. We're going to need help for the state and local governments as well, because we're providing more services to more people. We've already just in the past 60 days laid off 1.6 million state and local government workers.
Yeah, that's a lot.
The last thing we need is laying off frontline folks that are out there trying to help the other folks. And it doesn't help with us in our economic recovery.
I just wanted to ask you one sort of a bigger question, a bigger picture question. And you've written about the Republicans needing to figure out a way to broaden out the tent, to bring more people into it. You know, the Democrats are trying to figure that out right now, too, because everything is shifting with suburbanites and the working class, perhaps maybe switching parties at this point in this election. What do you mean by a bigger tent? Where can the Republicans get more people?
Well, so, I came out of college. I was a chairman for Youth for Reagan, a Reagan delegate. And, he did a really good job of building the Republican tent and getting Reagan Democrats and independents, and had a positive, hopeful vision for the future. I think that the party has got to. In Maryland, I've been successful as a Republican in one of the bluest states in America, winning over suburban women and independents and Democrats and even black voters in large numbers. I think it's something the party has got to, Haley Barbour once said, successful politics is about, addition and multiplication, not subtraction and division. And I think we've got to find a way to have a message that appeals to, you've got to get more people. You can't win elections if you have a shrinking base. So I think both parties, frankly, are going to have to take a look after this election about where we're going to go over the next 4 years.
Yeah, this election is fascinating, and then 2024 is going to be off the charts fascinating. All right. Larry Hogan, Governor of Maryland,
Absolutely.
Thank you.